How the gods tease us humans handing out a top skill card. Don't you think that if you have the same skills as Yusuha, you can also become the main character? Then I'll give you a chance. With the skill, you can copy everyone's skills. But there is a condition that you have to die by the hand of the person you want to copy. I am afraid that even the gods did not expect the skill he dropped for fun. What kind of monster will be created by the skills he drops? In a world of injustice, only a few chosen by the gods will awaken to become hunters. And the skill cards that appear when they awaken is the key to become a top hunter. Those top hunters who have absolute power will be regarded as heroes. Not only do they have the qualification to enter the tower and hunt the beasts, they also have endless wealth and fame. But Kim Gongja, who has S-rank skills, is still an ordinary. This kind of skill can only be triggered by death. You've lost your life. What do you need skills for? On the way home, Kim Gongja ran into Yusuha and Saintess's tearing up. This kind of exciting news naturally need to see more. But what happened next was beyond Kim Gongja's expectation. Yusuha took out a bottle of potion from his pocket. If he hadn't been able to go back in time, I'm afraid that Saintess would have been poisoned to death. Saintess was in a cold sweat. He didn't understand why his plan to poison Yusuha was revealed. Kim Gongja, who was eavesdropping, only saw them arguing. They thought that they were having a conflict between lovers. But the next moment, a fire rises up. Saintess was instantly turned into ashes. The sound of wailing echoed through the street. Kim Gongja felt bad. He turned around and ran. Is this still the hero he once admired? If he finds out, I'm sure his life will be in danger. Before he could take 2 steps away, Yusuha's voice already sounded behind him. I didn't think I'd miss one. Without waiting for Kim Gongja to think more, Yusuha's big hand was already in front of him. This idol that he once admired. But now he wants to kill himself. It's funny to think about it. As he was dying, a voice rang in my ears. Because you are dead, you have reached the permission to use the skill and will copy the skill of the other person at random. Looking at the cards flashing in front of me, Kim Gongja used her last strength. He grabbed the golden skill card that belonged to Yusuha. The next second, he was back in the room. The same news as yesterday was shown on the TV. It turned out that Kim Gongja had copied Yusuha's S-rank skill, the Watch of the Reborn. This skill will be triggered automatically after death. It allows the user to be reborn with the clock 24 hours ago. The ability value will also be retained. It is through this ability that Yusuha will know. Saintess tried to poison himself. Looking at Yusuha on TV, who is still arrogant, Kim Gongja was so angry that he gritted her teeth. In his mind, he was thinking about his revenge plan. The man picked up a short knife. The next second, he stabbed himself in the chest. When the man opened his eyes again, time had returned to 24 hours ago. The man did not hesitate. Stabbed himself in the chest again with a knife. He was still chanting 40-50. This number is like a demon. Again and again, he ended himself. The number in his mouth was also decreasing. Until the number reaches 0. The man finally stopped moving his hands. In order to kill the underside of his eyes, which has an immortal body. Back 11 years ago. The days before Yusuha became a legend. The current Yusuha is unaware of Kim Gongja's existence. Kim Gongja had a chance to take the initiative. As a former fan of Yusuha, Kim Gongja quickly found Yusuha's place. To ensure a smooth operation, Kim Gongja watched this day over and over 10 times. Now he can accurately predict all the things Yusuha will do next. For example, this guy wakes up at 9 o'clock every day. He leaves the dormitory to work for money. At 3 p.m., he goes to catch slimes. If we follow the original story, after a week, he will awaken, become Yusuha. But the arrival of Kim Gongja will change everything. 5:31 p.m. The under-eye who thinks there is no future in catching slimes decided to go to the 6th level where no novice would enter. For the next 36 minutes, Yusuha was the only person on the entire 6th floor. And Kim Gongja's plan began. First, he made some wounds, limping close to the bottom of the eye, pretending to be attacked by wolves, asking him to give him a bottle of potion. As expected, Yusuha was not only not going to save him, he was going to rob him while he was still alive. He stole all his gold coins. After getting the gold coins, he even took out his spear directly. He was ready to send Kim Gongja on his way. Now that you've seen my face, you can't leave any trouble behind. Let me send you straight to the King of Hell. This familiar tone and look reminded Kim Gongja of his last encounter. Luckily, he was prepared for it. As Yusuha retreated in pain, Kim Gongja pulled out the short knife hidden in his clothes. He drew an arc in the air. The sword sealed his throat, to ensure that Yusuha would not awaken in the midst of danger. Kim Gongja immediately stepped forward to make up for the frenzy. After confirming Yusuha's complete death, Kim Gongja cursed in anger. He was just a murderer, but he still acted like he was a noble man. When he has the power, he can do whatever he wants. When he left, he even threw Yusuha to the wolves, destroying the corpse. The future number 1 hunter is finally taken care of. Kim Gongja decided to have a drink at the tavern, relaxing. But he didn't know an even bigger storm has arrived. This is the age of hunters. In a world where skill is king, skill level will determine the strength of a hunter. Although he still has the lowest F rank on the board, but he has the best skill set ever. Unlimited resurrection after death, plus copying the opponent's skills after death. As long as there is no accident to top the ranking is sooner or later. It's a pity that the 2 skills are passive. Cannot improve his combat power. At best, it is a little strong that cannot die. But even so, Kim Gongja can also buy merchants through time travel, lottery tickets issued by the guild, sell information about the future, easily accumulate a huge amount of money. As long as there is money. The so-called top hunters are still working under him. While Kim Gongja was enjoying his life, the door of the tavern was thrown open. An old man in a suit walked in. He opened his mouth and ordered a glass of hot milk from the bartender. He didn't care about the bartender's reaction. He just kept talking to himself. He asked for vodka and sugar. It would be nice if the sugar was replaced with honey. This strange taste also attracted Kim Gongja's host. Kim Gongja was shocked by this look. How did Sword Saint, who had disappeared for 22 days, appear here? Although after Yusuha's appearance, his reputation gradually faded into oblivion. But in the days before Yusuha, he was the undisputed enemy. Looking at Sword Saint who was indifferently drinking milk in front of him, a bold idea suddenly came to Kim Gongja's mind. What would happen if I copied one of Sword Saint's skills? Kim Gongja then turned on his phone, trying to find Sword Saint's skills on the forum. But to her disappointment, Sword Saint is too mysterious. There is not much valid information online. It was only mentioned that Sword Saint's grandson and grandchildren should never be mentioned in front of him. His grandson and granddaughter were never mentioned in front of Sword Saint. As Sword Saint prepared to leave, Kim Gongja struggled for a moment, but chose to go after him. Sword Saint walked unhurriedly through the crowd. Kim Gongja followed behind him. When he thought that if Sword Saint killed him, he would be able to gain another skill that was as good as Yusuha's. He was so excited. But it wasn't long before a voice interrupted Kim Gongja. "Young man, this is the end of the line. Don't come any closer. No matter what happens here, no one will know." Under the moonlight, Sword Saint holds a long sword in one hand. His eyes were cold. "I never thought. A powerless F-rank rookie." Sword Saint's eyes were like a demon. Because Sword Saint's skill can see the number of killings. and Kim Gongja in order to go back 11 years. But in Sword Saint's eyes, those vicious murderers are just a child's game compared to him. They are just children playing games. To call Kim Gongja a demon would be an insult to him. Looking at the murderous Sword Saint in front of him, Kim Gongja hurriedly explained. He had only killed one popular Sword Saint. He drew his sword. Don't pretend. You're a murderer. The number on your head is 4091. That's what I said. Kim Gongja was confused. Now in Sword Saint's eyes, he's a murderer who has slaughtered 4,091 people. Kim Gongja immediately panicked. He turned around and tried to run. Now it's good. He doesn't have to think about how to get Sword Saint to kill him. I'm sure Sword Saint will kill him every time he swords him. Seeing Aki, who kept dodging, Sword Saint was even more sure that he was the murderer. Just as Sword Saint raised his sword, when he was about to execute justice, but suddenly stopped moving, he started talking to the air. Kim Gongja was stunned at first, thinking that talking to himself was Sword Saint's skill. But when he thought about it, this could be a telepathic skill or something. Kim Gongja felt bad. If Sword Saint is sharing information with others through the air, that he's a murderer, he'll do something, and the word will spread around the world. A killer who killed 4,091 people. That's a tough life to think about. The perfect hunting plan for Yasuha will be meaningless. Not only will he be wanted by the Hunters Bureau, they will also become the target of all major guilds. To be hunted forever. Until the moment of public execution. He knew he had to die right away. Once 24 hours had passed, there would be no turning back. Kim Gongja struggled to get up. He remembered the words he had read in the forum earlier. Never talk about his grandson and granddaughter in front of Sword Saint. But for Kim Gongja, who was desperate to die, this may be a shortcut. I heard that you are a nobleman from Northern Europe. How are your grandchildren doing? The more you are born in that kind of family, the more likely they are to be targeted, right? There's been a lot of buzz lately. He must be pretty. As soon as the words were said, a cold light flashed. Kim Gongja's perspective was turned upside down. The sword was so fast that you couldn't catch it with your eyes. I want to be like him. How can I reach his level? Watching Sword Saint's back as he left, Kim Gongja closed his eyes. The next moment he was back in that familiar space, looking at the skill cards flying in front of him. His excitement was overwhelming. This F-ranked rookie was determined to die. Even when facing the number 1 ranked Sword Saint, he was not even the least bit afraid. Because he has an immortal body. He can also copy other people's skills through death. Even if this person is Sword Saint, it is no exception. Looking at the skills copied from Sword Saint, Kim Gongja finally understood. He could become Sword Saint without any S-rank skills. This skill called Sword Saint has a spirit behind it. This spirit behind. In his lifetime, he had raided the 99th floor of the tower in the other world. Kim Gongja's heart was beating wildly. This is a fortune. You know. Even Yasuha only cleared the 40th floor by himself after 11 years. Isn't this a real golden finger, Grandpa? The spirit behind the copy. Obviously, he doesn't know the seriousness of the problem. He is searching the room for the shadow of his beloved pupil. Kim Gongja had no choice but to tell him the truth. It seems that he accidentally copied it onto himself. Upon hearing this, the real man who had swept the 99 anti-towers was immediately anxious. He had never seen such an outrageous thing in all his life. He cried and asked for a refund. If he had copied it with a skill, I'm sure it can be cancelled too. Sword Saint, that useless old man. How could he let his master be kidnapped by such a loser? Kim Gongja's head was spinning from all this crying. I can't cancel a skill like that. And can you stop crying in your arms? Your heart will fall out. The more Kim Gongja thought about it, the more speechless he became. I wanted to avoid Sword Saint for the rest of my life. How did you get such a stupid skill? When he heard that Kim Gongja wanted to hide from Sword Saint, the uncle was interested in it. I've never seen a kinder hunter than Sword Saint. As long as he doesn't mention about his grandchildren. Kim Gongja hurriedly stopped. He said he had already tried it himself. It was a comfortable death. There was no pain. And the reason why he avoided Sword Saint. Because he has a skill that can see the kill spell. Uncle was a bit puzzled. Detective's wise eye. Isn't it just a garbage skill that can tell if the opponent is a killer or not? Kim Gongja pointed to the top of his head. He said helplessly. My kill count is 4091. Daesuk said with disdain. This is too much of a brag, right? You look like a newbie. And a rookie at that. You haven't even understood the aura yet. How can you kill 4091 people? Because there are no 4091 people to kill. I really killed him. Only one person who will become a demon in the future. 4090 times. Go back 11 years and tell uncle. After hearing Kim Gongja's story, the look on his face also changed. It takes a lot of perseverance. If you work hard on it, maybe he will be a good talent. How strong is this man? 100 levels of magic tower. He can pass 99 floors alone. To pass the time, the old man who gave him a few pointers directly became the strongest sword saint of our time. But such an outrageous bandit. Now he is the spirit behind Kim Gongja. Sword Emperor was moved by compassion. Decided to cultivate this guy properly. But before that, he still needed to see Kim Gongja hunt monsters. The two of them went to the slime hunting area. Although slimes are the lowest level of demons. But for Kim Gongja, who has no active skills, it's still not an easy battle. Facing the expanding slime, Kim Gongja didn't panic. He seized the opportunity. The short knife in his hand swung, directly hitting the vitals. Finish the fight. Seeing this, Sword Emperor raised his eyebrows. Kim Gongja's performance was just as he had expected. As the only one to have raided the 99th floor tower, he could see the hunter's talent right away. Kim Gongja also knew that his little tricks were not up to par. He laughed at himself and said, I may have made your trip in vain. I don't have any potential in combat. But Sword Emperor doesn't think so. In his eyes, Kim Gongja not only has potential, but also a very good potential. Hearing this, Kim Gongja was a bit overwhelmed. I was praised by Sword Emperor for being an S-rank rookie. Are you kidding me? The Sword Emperor is not in the mood to mess around with him. Although Kim Gongja had no combat skills, he doesn't seem to be qualified to understand aura yet. But there is one talent. You are the only one who has it. And that is the fear of death. Most people have some sort of fear when they fight. But Kim Gongja is completely different. Maybe it's because he's died 4,000 times. He's already numb to it. Kim Gongja was speechless. Can this be considered a talent? It's not just something you're born with that counts as a talent. Everyone has the possibility to awaken their talents during the process of growth. And one of the most valuable talents is the ability to overcome the fear of death. In that sense, you are very good. The Sword Emperor suddenly burst into laughter. This is so funny. If he really was a copy of himself, Sword Saint should have another version of himself there now. Also by his own hand. Who will become the strongest hunter between Kim Gongja and Sword Saint? Even the former Sword Emperor was impressed by him. He said he would take him as his student. Help him to become the strongest hunter. I thought that with the golden finger, the old grandfather can rise to the top. But the next day Kim Gongja regretted it. This place is definitely for sword training. That's right, you can't even boil a hawk like this. Just before 4 o'clock. See, the ground began to wake up Kim Gongja 360 degrees without any angle joke. Behind the spirit cannot eat, drink and sleep. But people need to. But also cannot afford to get up early. Ah Jing is so angry that he is about to explode. It's only 4 a.m. Do not let people sleep. Can see the ground is also very helpless. 4 a.m. The bugs are working. You are even weaker than the worms. You're the first to fly. Kim Gongjia was so angry, asking Sword Emperor if he couldn't sleep. He woke himself up because he was bored, seeing that his tricks had been exposed. CG was a little weak, but he still acted like he was thinking of Kim Gongjia. Kim Gongjia saw that he could pretend so well. He gave him a beating. No wonder Sword Saint wakes up at 4 a.m. to train. It's not because he's disciplined. It's because you're too noisy, right? Sword Emperor's defense was broken. Finally Kim Gongjia had to compromise. Pack up. Go out for a morning run. I can't help it. The Sword Emperor is too strong. I can't beat him up. Sword Emperor will also keep pestering himself. So I had to be half forced and half coaxed to start training. Kim Gongjia's training started with the most basic running. However, Sword Emperor said, Kim Gongjia now needs special training. And he had to pay a high tuition fee.